I never imagined my father would humiliate me in front of everyone, but there I was, standing in front of a crowd, the key to my penthouse in my hand, as he announced that I was giving it all away. The evening was supposed to be a celebration. My sister Sophia's birthday, one of those extravagant parties that our family always hosted. The house gleamed with chandeliers, the guests were dressed in expensive clothes, and the air was thick with laughter and chatter. On the surface, it was the perfect family gathering, but beneath it, I could already feel the weight of the unspoken expectations pressing down on me. Sophia was the center of attention, as always. She laughed loudly, basking in the adoration of everyone around her. My mother hovered near her, beaming with pride. Meanwhile, I stood off to the side, trying to blend into the background, feeling like an outsider in my own family. Then my father, with his ever-present smile and charming demeanor, walked over. He clapped me on the shoulder and nodded toward the crowd. "Sarah," he said, "come on. It's time for the announcement." Before I could respond, he was already at the microphone. The room quieted as he spoke, his voice loud and commanding. "Ladies and gentlemen, we gather tonight to celebrate family and to demonstrate the generosity that makes us strong. My daughter Sarah has decided to show her love for her sister Sophia by giving her penthouse to her." The room fell into stunned silence and then erupted into applause. I stood there frozen, my fingers tight around the cold key to my home. It felt like the floor was falling out from under me. Sophia's eyes lit up, and she covered her mouth in mock surprise. "Dad, really?" she asked, her voice trembling just enough to sound sincere. But I knew she wasn't surprised. She knew exactly what was happening. The applause continued, but it felt suffocating. My mother's gaze was fixed on me, urging me to agree, to go along with it. I could feel the weight of everyone's eyes, waiting for me to play my part. My father's grin never wavered, as if this was just another one of his staged family moments. But this wasn't generosity. It wasn't love. It was control. Something inside me snapped. This time, I wasn't going to play along. The applause still echoed in my ears, but it felt like it was coming from a place far away. I stood there, holding the key to my penthouse, the cold metal digging into my palm like a constant reminder of everything I had just lost. The perfect party, the gleaming chandeliers, the elegant guests, it was all just a facade. The Moore family, the picture-perfect, well-to-do family everyone admired from the outside. But inside, behind the polished smiles and the lavish decor, everything felt suffocating. I had spent years pretending this was enough, but tonight, everything felt hollow. Sophia was still the center of attention, laughing loudly, taking in the compliments from everyone around her. It was always like this. She had a way of making everyone feel like they were part of her world. My mother stood beside her, her eyes shining with pride, completely oblivious to how her treatment of me had made me feel invisible all these years. I watched from the side, trying to blend in, but it was impossible. No matter how hard I tried, I was always in the background. My life, my hard work, my accomplishments seemed to be invisible compared to Sophia's effortless charm. She could do no wrong. And there I was, the dutiful daughter, the one who always did what was asked of her, the one who worked long hours, who took care of things, who kept everything together so the family could look perfect. My mother turned to me, her voice cutting through my thoughts. "Sarah, darling, could you just make sure the drinks are replenished? We don't want anyone running out." She didn't even look at me as she said it. She was focused on Sophia, adjusting her dress, admiring her jewelry. I nodded, but the smile on my face felt like it was stretching to thin. It wasn't just about the drinks. It wasn't just about the party. It was everything. It was always about what they needed from me, never about what I wanted. Sophia's laughter rang in my ears, louder than ever. "Oh, I'm just so lucky," she said, her voice carrying across the room. "Family always comes through for me. I don't know what I'd do without them." Lucky? She had everything handed to her. I had earned everything I had, and yet, it was never enough. The more I gave, the less they seemed to see me. I sipped my wine, trying to swallow the bitter taste in my mouth. It wasn't the wine that burned, it was the realization. This was my life now. This was my place in their world. But not for long. I knew I couldn't keep pretending anymore. The more I smiled, the more I lost myself. The night felt like it was dragging on, each minute slipping by slowly, suffocatingly. I tried to join the conversations, but I felt like an outsider. It wasn't just the guests who made me feel invisible, it was my own family. My father's announcement was still echoing in my mind. "Sarah has decided to give her penthouse to her sister, Sophia, The words kept playing over and over in my head. It wasn't just about the penthouse. It was about everything. For years, I had been the one to keep the family together, the one who shouldered the responsibilities no one else wanted. I worked late hours, handled the bills, kept everything running smoothly. And when it was time to celebrate, I was the one who made sure the party went off without a hitch. But no one ever acknowledged my efforts. Sophia, on the other hand, floated through life with a smile, always in the spotlight. She was always the struggling one, the one who couldn't seem to make anything work. Yet, somehow, she always came out on top. My parents constantly coddled her. Sophia's just going through a rough patch, they'd say. She needs a little help. Meanwhile, I was over here, building a life for myself, everything I had worked so hard to create, and yet it was never enough. I glanced across the room, watching Sophia, who was surrounded by a small crowd of friends, laughing and accepting every compliment like it was her birthright. There was her fiancé, Ethan, standing close by, his arm draped around her. He looked at her with admiration, while I stood in the corner, trying to remain unnoticed. I couldn't help but notice the diamond bracelet on her wrist, the same one my parents had gifted her for her engagement. Meanwhile, I had built everything myself. My penthouse, my career, my success. And now, it was all being offered up like a prize for Sophia, without my consent. Sarah, my father's voice pulled me back from my thoughts. He had appeared beside me again, his hand heavy on my shoulder. You should be proud. You've worked hard, but it's time to share with your sister. Family takes care of family. His words felt like a punch to the gut. The way he said it made me feel like everything I had worked for was meaningless, like I owed it to them. Owed it to Sophia. To hand over my life's achievements, I forced a smile, my hands trembling slightly. Of course, I managed to say, though it felt like I was suffocating, but the more he spoke, the clearer it became. They didn't see me. They never had. And in that moment, I realized something. They didn't see me at all. They never had. But I wasn't going to let that define me anymore. The applause still echoed in my ears, but it felt hollow, distant. I could still feel the weight of my father's words pressing on me. Family takes care of family. The words sounded simple, but in the way he said them, they felt like a demand. I was supposed to give away everything I had worked for. Without question, without hesitation, I looked around the room, my eyes scanning the smiling faces, the clinking glasses, and the warm, perfect images of family that everyone was so desperate to preserve. The house was beautiful, flawless. Everything looked pristine, but inside, it felt like it was all just smoke and mirrors. Sophia was still the center of attention, surrounded by people who showered her with compliments. I watched her laugh, loud and carefree, her eyes sparkling with excitement. She was the golden child, always the one who needed saving, always the one who didn't have to do the work. Yet, here I was, the one who made everything happen behind the scenes. No recognition, no applause, just expectation. My mother was at her side, her attention fully on Sophia. "You're so lucky, darling," she was saying, her voice dripping with praise. "Everyone is so impressed with you tonight." I could feel the bitterness rising in my throat. Lucky? Was that how she saw it? Luck? As if Sophia had earned any of this? I had spent years sacrificing, giving up parts of myself to maintain this perfect image of our family. And now, it was all being taken away from me. My father's voice broke through my thoughts again. He was beside me, that heavy hand on my shoulder, smiling the way he always did when he wanted something from me. "Come on, sweetheart," he said, his voice warm but commanding. "You've worked hard. It's time to share that success with your sister. She's been struggling." Struggling. That word again. I felt a fire ignite inside me. A slow burn of anger, frustration, and finally, defiance. My whole life, I had been told what I should do, who I should be. But not anymore. Not tonight. "No," I said, my voice quiet but firm. Cutting through the noise, the room went dead silent. All eyes were on me, waiting for me to back down. "What did you say?" my father asked, his voice tight with confusion. I said no. I repeated, louder this time, my grip on the penthouse key tightening. "I'm not giving it to her. It's mine. I earned it." The shock in his eyes was palpable. The room remained still, like everyone was holding their breath, waiting for the storm to break. I wasn't just defying him. I was reclaiming myself. I could feel the weight of every eye on me. But this time, I didn't care. I had said no, and I wasn't going to apologize for it. I walked away from the party, my heels clicking sharply against the marble floor, each step taking me further away from the family I had spent years trying to please. The hallway outside the banquet room felt colder, quieter. The contrast was jarring, like stepping into a completely different world. Inside, I could still hear the laughter and chatter, but it felt like a distant echo. My heart was pounding, my cheek still stinging from the slap. But strangely, I didn't feel the anger I expected. What hurt the most wasn't the pain on my face, it was the realization that they had never truly seen me, never truly heard me. For all the sacrifices I had made, for all the years I spent doing what they expected, they still saw me as nothing more than a tool for their plans. I pressed my fingers to my cheek, half expecting to feel the warmth of his hand still lingering there. Instead, it felt cold, empty. I wasn't crying. I wasn't begging for forgiveness. I wasn't apologizing for standing up for myself. For the first time, I didn't feel the need to. I reached into my clutch and pulled out my phone. My fingers hovered over the screen for a second. This wasn't about anger anymore. It was about control. This was my life, my choices. I had been walking on eggshells, trying to keep everyone happy. But now I had to make a choice that was mine and mine alone. I typed a quick message to Kayla. "I'm okay. It's done." The phone buzzed almost immediately. "You're sure?" Kayla's message popped up. I smiled, knowing she was the only one who truly understood me. "I'm more than sure. I'm done being their puppet," I replied. I felt a sense of finality as I hit send. It wasn't just a message. It was a declaration. I wasn't going to be their punching bag anymore. I wasn't going to apologize for choosing myself. The elevator doors dinged open, and I stepped inside. As the doors closed, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, the tension slowly easing from my chest. The cold air outside would be freedom. I wasn't running anymore. I had a plan, and nothing was going to stand in my way. The lobby was quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos I had just left behind. The scent of fresh flowers and the faint smell of expensive perfume lingered in the air, but it didn't matter. None of it mattered. For the first time, I felt free. The weight that had been pressing on me for years, suffocating me with expectations, was finally gone. I could feel the shift inside me, a sense of clarity I hadn't experienced in a long time. I was done being controlled, done pretending to be the perfect daughter, the one who always sacrificed, who always gave. My phone buzzed in my hand, snapping me out of my thoughts. It was Kayla again. "Are you sure you're okay?" she asked. I smiled at the screen, typing quickly. "I'm more than okay. I'm done running." I sent it and sat back for a moment, letting the finality of the words sink in. I wasn't just walking away from a family gathering. I wasn't just defying their expectations. I was choosing myself for the first time, choosing freedom, and I knew what had to come next. The glass doors to the outside opened, and I stepped into the cool night air. I wasn't sure where I was headed exactly, but I knew I had to move forward, away from the lies, away from the toxic perfection my family had built. And then, through the night stillness, I saw her, standing near the driveway, tall and composed, her silver hair gleaming faintly under the streetlights. It was Margaret, my grandmother. She didn't need to ask me what had happened. She knew. She was the one person who had always understood. Without a word, she opened the car door, gesturing for me to get in. I didn't hesitate. I slid into the passenger seat, and the car began to move. The world outside was passing by, but this time, I didn't feel trapped. I felt like I was finally in control. Margaret's house was on the outskirts of the city, a place that felt as much like a sanctuary as a home. The drive was quiet, but it didn't feel uncomfortable. Margaret was a woman of few words, but I knew her silence was more powerful than any lecture could be. When we arrived, she simply turned to me and said, "Do you have everything you need, Sarah?" I nodded. "I do." "Good," she replied, her voice calm but firm. "Then let's go. We have work to do." The drive to Margaret's house was quiet, the city lights flickering by in the distance, but I wasn't looking at them. My mind was focused on the weight of what had just happened. The years of being silenced, of playing a part, of putting everyone's needs before mine, it all felt so far behind me now. And yet, it felt like everything had just started. Margaret's house was calm, nestled at the edge of the city, surrounded by trees and quiet. It was a place where the world felt distant, almost like a different life. We walked up the gravel path to her front door, and as I stepped inside, I could feel the difference. This wasn't the chaos of my family's life. This was peace. This was where I could finally breathe. Margaret didn't waste time with pleasantries. She walked straight into the living room and turned to me. Her eyes, sharp but kind, locked onto mine. "You've done well, Sarah," she said, her voice low but powerful. "You've made the right choice." I nodded, not sure what to say. "I don't know what comes next," I admitted. "I can't go back to that life. I can't keep pretending." Margaret studied me for a moment, her gaze unwavering. She had always seen through me through all the walls I'd built. "You don't have to pretend anymore," she said, her voice softer now. "This is the beginning of something new." I took a deep breath, absorbing her words. For the first time in my life, I wasn't doing what was expected. I wasn't sacrificing myself for a family that never saw me for who I was. Margaret turned away for a moment, opening a drawer and pulling out a thick stack of papers. She handed them to me without a word, her face calm. Yet there was a certain strength in her silence. "Sign them," she said simply. "This is your future, Sarah. It's time to take control." The papers in my hands felt heavy. I didn't even need to look at them to know what they meant. These were my final break from the past. This was everything I had worked for, the life I had built. I stared at the papers for a long moment. The weight of what they represented felt overwhelming, but I knew I had no choice. I picked up the pen. The scratch of it against the paper was the loudest sound in the room. I signed, and with that, I knew. This was mine, my future, my choice. The next morning, the house felt different. It was quieter, but not in the oppressive way it used to be. The silence was peaceful. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I had to hurry, didn't feel the weight of other people's expectations hanging over me. The sun streamed through the windows, casting soft light across the room. It felt like I was waking up to a new day, a new life. As I sat at the kitchen table, sipping my coffee, I glanced at the signed papers Margaret had given me the night before. The documents that represented everything I had worked for, the life I had built with my own hands, the things I had earned. It no longer felt like a burden. It felt like freedom. I looked around the room, at the penthouse that I had fought for, that I had earned, and for the first time, it was mine, completely and entirely. No one could take it from me. No one could tell me what to do with it. It was mine to keep, mine to enjoy. My phone buzzed on the table, pulling me out of my thoughts. It was a message from Kayla. I saw the news. "Are you okay?" I smiled softly as I typed back. "I'm more than okay. I'm done." It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders just by sending those words. I was done living for them. Done trying to prove my worth to a family that would never see me for who I truly was. As I set the phone down, I felt a sense of finality. There was no going back. My family had humiliated me, tried to strip away everything that made me who I am. But now I was free. I wasn't going to let their manipulation define me anymore. The doorbell rang, and I stood, walking toward the door, wondering who it could be. When I opened it, I saw Margaret standing there, a quiet but knowing smile on her face. She didn't say anything at first. She didn't need to. "You're going to be okay," she said simply, her voice steady, comforting. "I already am," I replied, closing the door behind her. I walked back to the window, looking out at the city skyline. The world below seemed to stretch on forever, full of possibility, full of freedom. And for the first time, I wasn't running. I wasn't trying to be what someone else wanted me to be. I had chosen this. I had chosen me. And that was the greatest power I had ever known.